a few short videos to help us practice, to build our confidence in being able to name compounds and to write formulas. If you have not already looked at the video, I think it's 3C, the title being Compound Names and Formulas, I would suggest you go back and review that. About the first 14 minutes of it are about how to name compounds, and the rest of the video, the last 7 or 8 minutes, is in the reverse, given the name, how to write the formulas. But again, I'm going to commend that to you first before you try this. It goes through all the basics in a lot more detail than we're going to do in here. We're going to kind of hit the highlights in these short videos, but these are mostly for you to practice, to kind of build your confidence that you know what to do. We're going to explain things as we go along, but you really do need to watch that. I'd also tell you that in your course support materials, if you're in Chemistry 104, or in your Blackboard shell, or from class if you're in Chem 111, you have written material that covers this. You have an inorganic nomenclature, I call it a flow diagram, that tells you how to name them, and on the back side you have all the symbols and names and charges on all the anions we're going to use in the course. You might want to get those out if you need some help. And then in either case, you've got a worksheet that's going to give you a lot more practice. The answers to those worksheets are either in the course support material or posted in Blackboard. So you've got lots of backup material and lots of things to practice. So let's just use this as kind of a quick one more step for you to watch how things get done. All right, so we're going to start with just a little review. The key to naming any compound is to look at that first elemental symbol and determine what it is in the periodic table. The first cut being, is it a non-metal or a metal? And then if it's a metal, what type of metal it is. We're going to cover that in the next couple of videos, but that's the first cut. So watch that stair step in the periodic table. Remember, it kind of goes down like that. Non-metals on the right-hand side, all the metals on the left-hand side. So let's look at that and just review again how we're going to know what's what here. All right, elemental symbols are either a single capital letter or a capital letter with a lowercase letter following it. So we would, trying to figure out what the first element is, read over essentially to the second capital letter and kind of break the element or the compound apart and look at it. That first letter or that first capital letter and small letter are going to tell us whether the thing's a metal, a group 1, 2, or 3 metal, or a transition metal. So let's say that we're about ready to embark on that, and so we're going to look at the situations in which that first element is a non-metal, because we know what's attached to it. It's going to be some kind of non-metal, or at least an anion. Okay? And if you remember back, if you've looked at the compound names and formulas video, it said the first thing we want to do is we want to name the non-metal, and we want to name the anions attached to it, and we want to use Greek prefixes with each name if there's more than one atom of that element present. All right? Now, the classic example I always use in class that most of you know without even thinking about it is how to name the compound CO2. You all know that you name that as carbon dioxide. This follows our rule exactly. You probably just didn't know you were using that rule. All right, the rule was I see one carbon atom. I identify that in my periodic table as being on the right-hand side of my stair step. It's a non-metal, so I name it. Since there's only one of them, I don't usually put a mono out front. It's not wrong, it's just not needed. The fact that I named the element says that I know there's one of them in there. I only really need Greek prefixes if there's more than one present. All right? When I looked at the next, the O, if you look on your sheet of anions that you have, in, like I said, in your course support material or from your Blackboard course, O on the back is listed as O, and the name for that is oxide. All right. The fact that there are two of them says we have to use the Greek prefix that tells us it's two, so we use the Greek prefix di. We write that as a prefix, so dioxide is one word. The gap is between the name of the first element and the name of the anion that's attached. All right, now I have no clue as to whether this compound exists. I just liked the letters and the numbers, so I just wrote it down here. N3S4. All right, so again, the first element's going to take its name, nitrogen, and that's what I wrote. The last element, or the anion in there, is going to take its name just as you see it on your list of anion sheet. That is sulfide, not sulfur. Remember, those things drop their endings and add IDE. So sulfide. There are three nitrogens, so I have to use the Greek prefix for three. That's trinitrogen. And there are four sulfides, so I have to use the Greek prefix for four. That's tetra. So I would write that as trinitrogen, one word, a space, tetrasulfide, the second word. So N3S4 would be correctly named as trinitrogen tetrasulfide. All right, that's kind of a quick run through of our process for naming a nonmetal and an anion. I would like you to practice these 6. All right. What I would suggest is you put this on hold, on pause, write down your names for each of these, and we've kind of made this easy. We've put all of these are a nonmetal and some anion attached to it, so we don't have to be worried about that right now. There'll be time for that later. We'll kind of scramble them up and ask you to go through that process. So, put this on pause. See if you can write the names to these 6 compounds, some of which exist, some of which may not. And then, when you've got that done, proceed on to the next slide, and I'll have the names up there correctly written out, and you can check yours, and we will talk through those a little bit just to kind of explain how we got to where we arrived at that answer. So put this on pause. Write your names out, come back, and check them out. Okay, if you're back, hopefully you have all 6 of these right. All right. Spelled correctly. All the names are on your periodic table and in our anion sheet. So the first one was SO3, S being sulfur, spelt with a U, not an E. All right. And O, oxide. 3 of those, tri. We did not need to put a mono sulfur. As soon as I wrote sulfur, I knew there was one of them there. All right, so kind of following that same principle, CCl4 would have been carbon for my first element. And Cl, that's the next element, that's chloride if you look on your sheet. And 4, the Greek prefix is tetra. So hopefully you got that one right. All right, next one we looked at, first element, a capital letter. All right, so we wrote phosphorus, all right, not potassium, phosphorus, and then I with a 5. I is iodide, and 5 is shown to us as the Greek prefix penta. Phosphorus pentaiodide is the way we would pronounce that. All right, then probably a made-up one here, Si3Br4. All right, Si would be silicon, and so it's going to take its complete name. 3 meaning tri again. Br, that's bromine, but since it's the anion in here, it gets its ending changed to IDE, so bromide. You ought to be able to find that on your anion sheet too. And again, 4, tetra. Okay, good. All right, how'd you do on Cl2S? All right, Cl is chlorine, so it's going to take its complete name, CHLORINE, chlorine. But there are 2 of them, so we have to put a di in front of that to start with. Dichlorine, and then the S, sulfide. Since there's only one of them, we just say sulfide. We don't need to say dichlorine monosulfide. We're fine putting dichlorine sulfide. And then kind of a good test question here. Let's see if we've got it all down. P4F7. Tetraphosphorus. Greek prefix for 7 is hepta, and then F is fluoride, not fluoride. You'll notice that the U and the O are kind of reverse places there. Tetraphosphorus heptafluoride. So I hope you got those all right. These ought to be pretty easy. I think you're going to have a quiz, and you probably will have some of these on the exam over this unit. So get familiar with how to do these. Practice, practice, practice. So that's going to end this video. You may want to go either to your worksheet then, where you have a number of these to do. Depending on which class you're in, you may have between 5 and 10 of these to practice on, and you've got the answers to check out. So go do that now. Make sure you know how to do this. Next couple of videos, we'll be talking about group 1, 2, and 3 metals in an anion, and we'll be talking about transition metals with an anion, and then we're going to use some of the more complex anions, which we call polyatomic anions. So that's going to end it for this, this short session.